more. Review. Week 7, Part 2. All of this is preparing you for the micro lessons. Your micro lessons starting in week 9, that means submission of micro lesson scripts, is you preparing a script or what you plan to say to be able to do a certain type of lesson. More on that soon, but let's go over some basics. Now here's some things I've picked from the net, things to bear in mind when you're preparing your micro lesson. All right. So if we look at a couple of the different things, if I zoom, right, there's that TPR, total physical response. Children learn by doing, so having them copy actions, do different actions that you want them to learn. Intrinsic motivation, engage, study, activate. Get them to identify what interests them and get them engaged in your lesson. Model. Model is important. That means showing them examples of what you want. So it could be examples, if you're reviewing colors, examples of colors. That means giving examples and getting students to give you examples. Sentences, grammar, giving them examples, students give you examples. Mostly speaking, but you can model them on the board or on the screen also. Anything else? Let's see, if we go to another one. Strategies, make it fun. That's why we're doing games. Again, that builds intrinsic motivation, okay? And these are some of the things that we've mentioned already. And it's less obvious in the micro lesson scripts, but in your real classes and in if you are doing micro lesson classes, you're not putting pressure. Again, the goal is to improve confidence, increase confidence, so you're not correcting every mistake, you're not looking for perfection or accuracy, you're looking for building fluency, building understanding of the vocabulary and grammar that you are reviewing in your micro lesson. Okay, and as I say, it's not grading everything. Okay, let's review our PDFs and their connection with your micro lesson. So this was the first one about technology. You don't have to do one of these. So the only ones connected with the micro lesson really would be Socrative or Kahoot. Now you could do this as a follow-up activity to check what students know, but it's not very well suited to our micro lessons. So I would avoid that. Of course, if you want to prepare something like Microsoft Sway as your review for preparation, some sort of tech, that's fine. I've said before that PowerPoints are very popular, but not strictly necessary. And I'm always keen to see different approaches. Next, we looked at language. The language you should avoid. So that is especially future and past tense. So you're trying to keep it in the present tense. Only me, you, and students' names. Difficult words you should avoid and be precise. Don't say too much. Reduce teacher talk time. Now, all of this is part of, sorry, where are we? This one, the language. Use simple, clear, short, full sentences and direct instructions. So that we've reviewed through some of the seesaw examples that I gave you. Okay. We also looked at questions. I said questions are very important to check that students are listening, check that they understand, keep them personally interested, building intrinsic motivation, and you can also turn statements into questions. So instead of telling, ask. And there's lots of different types of questions you could ask to avoid the "are you listening? Do you understand?" So those are not good, but specific questions of different types should be in your script, lots of them. Whenever, analyze everything you say and think about the importance. If it's not important, don't say it. If it's important, you're expecting students to understand. So how will you know if students understand? Questions. And visuals that we mentioned from Edpuzzle. Students should be able to see the language. So when you're saying it, you're pointing to, it could be words on the board, on the screen, on cards, realia, things you've brought, or items, even directions. And that means showing them, the TPR type, or using actions to show. So you run to the board and you have to write the word. And then kinesthetic, which is doing the actions as I've just said. Colors can work for simple focus on, in this case, the starts of the words and the endings of the words. And this, while I have it on the screen, is very important for crafts. Crafts is the first micro lesson. It's first because it is very visual. Now, it's less visual digitally, but you have to show me that when you're giving directions, you're saying what you're doing, like fold to what, each corner of the paper, and how or where, into the middle. So you're using precise language and things that normally you would demonstrate in front of students, and they follow your directions. So even though students don't understand what you say, they can see what to do and they copy your actions. And that's why crafts is first. It's worth mentioning that if you're doing crafts, and I think every class, 3 of you are doing crafts. Now, every micro lesson is individual. You're preparing it alone because students have complained about teamwork assignments digitally. So it's better you do it yourself. Choose a different craft. So you would go to Weebly and have a look at the crafts paper. So it's dnuece.weebly.com, micro lessons, crafts, and choose one that you can do for your core activity. These are all good examples. There's also other ones here. And if you have a different idea, ask me first, because some things are just too difficult, too involved. Okay. Now for crafts, of course, it's not an art class. You're making a craft to practice some language component. So as always, for every micro lesson, you should choose a suitable number of words and group of words. So if we take an example, if we looked at, hold on, let's say I was doing this, then I would start with a preparation activity, reviewing my keywords. And my keywords are probably sports or actions. It could even be musical instruments here. But let's say I do sports. I can also look at something called collocations, like which verb goes with which sport. So play basketball, yes. Do taekwondo. So we don't play taekwondo, we do it. So you can group 10, 12 different sports, 2 or 3 different verbs, do, play, and whichever sports you've got, you're going to make sure it's the right one. And then there's also grammar. So you've got subject and verb agreement. She plays, they play, right? He does. So you would review all that in your preparation activity. The best way is to look at the teacher toolbox. And when you go to the teacher toolbox, there's a number of those that are checked with a P. So you could do it as cards, like here. You could do it as backwriting. What else have I got? Keyword count. So you read a number of different words and students have to count how many sports they hear. Be creative. I don't tell you exactly how to do these because I want you to come up with your own ideas, and I also want you to demonstrate an understanding of the important part of the activity. And the important part of preparation is reviewing any words that students need for the core activity, the main activity. Now, you'll probably see that I've posted a Google Doc for the micro lessons. Please add your name to that Google Doc. Okay, so if I have a look here, so for example, here's the English major. When you click on that, you should be able to open. Oh, and some have already started editing. That's good. Do not delete others. It's not a competition, and I can see your editing. So put in your student number, name, 1 for each blank, of course. This is to remind you of the week of submission. So in other words, if you do crafts, you will be submitting in week 9, 2 weeks later. And that's the same as listed on our schedule here. So I will talk a bit more about, is this the right one? Yeah, actually, hold on. Yeah, sorry, got confused there. I've updated this schedule, so keep an eye on it. I will talk a bit more about crafts next week. Once people have put their names in and started thinking about it, you'll be able to ask me some questions. And you will be submitting your script to me directly in this week. Okay, and so in other words, week 9, 3 students in each class will be submitting a crafts micro lesson. And that's the complete micro lesson: preparation, core, and follow-up. You're aiming for about a 15-minute minimum, 30-minute maximum lesson. I'll leave that to you. Quality is a focus over quantity. So I'm not timing it out, but I need to see good examples of everything that's in the rubric. Good examples of the amount of words you're trying to review, the simplicity of your directions and language. Are you giving and getting enough examples? Examples whenever possible. It's not just once or twice, but throughout your script. Examples of actions, examples of answers to questions that you've asked. Are you asking a variety of different questions? Are you using different words to paraphrase? And I'll talk about paraphrasing in a second because that is also graded. Teacher techniques from the teacher toolbox. Are you using them? Have you thought about them? Different materials to keep your lesson visual. I love to see cards especially, so it could be color cards with letters, numbers, words, parts of words if you cut them up. And the activities, are they suitable to your class goals, to the words that you're trying to review? So this is the important part of your micro lesson. Now, luckily, I've also just noticed that I've included paraphrasing in week 7. So let's do that now before I forget. All right, I've updated the site again. So when you click on paraphrasing, you get this file. Now, this is an example micro lesson script. It's very short. Yours will be longer, but it's only to show you how to paraphrase. It's for a book. So it's for storytelling or stories. And you'll see on the left, I've got the original teaching script, and on the right, I've added some paraphrased directions or questions. So I start by saying, okay, boys and girls. Why? Well, that's just getting everyone's attention. What's another way to get students' attention? Ask a question. Is everyone listening? Today we're going to read a story. And again, this is building motivation. It's story time, another way to build motivation. Do you like stories? I'm speaking to the class generally, so they hear it the first time. And then I ask one student, Lucy, do you enjoy stories? So I'm asking one student. I've also changed one word, the verb, to enjoy. So they're being exposed to different words in the language. This story is called Who Said Red? And now I'm checking the students heard that. So I'm asking Tom, what's the name of the story, Tom? It's a story about colors. Now, this is general, and then I'm being more specific. So there are many colors in this book. So I'm adding information. Right? What colors do you know in English? Now, last time I'd asked one student, but this time I'm asking a more specific question. So what color is this pen in English? What color is this? What is red? And I'm asking students to name different things. They're red, green, blue, and yellow. You know many colors. Good work. Paraphrase. Praise. Okay, now we're going to read the story together. Everyone, let's read together. Same thing, slightly different language. Okay, so well, we might as well continue. Listen and repeat after me. It's a common phrase. Then you're adding more specific information. I say one line, then you say it with me. And of course, in your script, you'd give an example. Then you'd read a line of the story, and then students read it with you. By the way, in your script, you only need to write what you say. You don't have to write what students say. If you think it helps me understand the context, you can, but it's not essential. I can guess. And you don't need to paraphrase everything. There are times when there's nothing more to say. Very good. You could say, well done, but you don't have to paraphrase every phrase, right? So let's look at these words. So you're just getting their attention to cherry, berry, very. And then say together, a cherry, berry, very red. So they're working still on these rhyming words. Now you're trying to get them to think about rhyming words, which in this case is one of your language goals. So, well, that's in the rubric that I've deleted here, but one of your language goals could be rhyming words. And you've started to look at rhyming words. Now, if you look at this column, actually, you'll see that there are numbers hidden below each one. So these are the 5 types of paraphrasing that I hope that you'll use in your script. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In the first type, you give a long phrase, like what do you call this in English? Then you say the same thing again, but in a shorter phrase. What's this? You might say a difficult thing, circle the odd one out. Odd one out is not an easy expression, so you say it again using an easier expression. Circle the different word. And again, you're asking questions and giving examples throughout your script. You might make a statement, then turn it into a question. These two are different. You might ask, how are they different? Or, are these different? General, there are many colors around us. To specific, which colors can you see? And group, to the class, can you see this picture? To individual, David, can you see this picture? So there are lots of different ways to paraphrase, and this allows you to show me the English that, this is the basis of this class. Hold on. So, language is a large component, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's really half of your micro lesson is based on what you say and what you ask, right? And there's paraphrasing here. Okay, so rather than create a very complex, difficult lesson, focus on this. First of all, choose a core activity. For crafts, choose a craft. Think about which words you want to review using your craft, and then prepare a suitable preparation activity. And then assess at the end. Do students now know the words that I reviewed in my core activity? Have they learned them? Are they able to say them or possibly write them? Okay, so use this. This is the key to a good micro lesson. Right, again, focusing on quality over quantity. I am going to finish there, and I want you to review different things on this site from this video. Make sure you've put your name in for the micro lesson so I know who's doing which micro lesson. Okay, only one name per box. Every class has a slightly different number, so don't add any rows below. And I'll prepare a Google quiz for the end of the week. It won't be available till, I think, Friday. So you'll have the weekend to take the quiz to make sure that you've watched this and I've given you enough time to review. Okay? Any questions, please get in touch or use Google Meet to contact me. Okay, I should be available throughout the week. And you can do it alone or with friends or with all of your class, that's fine. And we'll have a final preparation review for the micro lesson next week once I hear from you and any troubles that you have. Have a good week.